Welcome back to the When Dreams and Action Collide podcast. I'm your host, Joy Lanae, your productivity powerhouse. And this month, I'm doing a series called Get It Together at Home. And so far, we've talked about the basics of clearing the clutter in your home, just a very simple overview to start simple. And last week, we chatted about the difference between food prepping and meal prepping and how to use both. So hopefully you guys have been able to work on those a bit and see a bit of a difference in decluttering a space. Maybe you've tackled the whole house. I don't know, maybe a few things. Maybe you've started some meal planning, meal prepping, food prepping. So yeah, I hope it's going good. If it is, don't forget to leave me a DM on Instagram or on the YouTube channel, whatever it is. I'd love to hear what you're doing and what you're putting into place. So today and this week, I'm talking about transforming your schedule. Now, I know for most people, especially for this time of year, the last few months of the year tend to be crazy busy with things on the calendar. Not only do you have holidays, but sports, and of course here in Australia, it's spring and summer, end of a school year, all those activities rolled into one. I know in the States, there's lots of sports happening, especially as the school year takes off, plus multiple holidays spread throughout. So I think it's fair to say that the last half of the year is usually busier than the first half. So with this, let me ask you a question. Have you found yourself in the past that you not only have things you are normally doing, but you also take on more, which leads to overcommitting, which then leads to overwhelm, and then you are literally hanging out for the week after Christmas to be able to slow down? Okay, maybe that's just me. This has definitely been me in the past. But there's a way to be able to even walk through busy times by going through your schedule and just setting things intentionally. So I know we can't always help with the time of year that things are on, especially holidays, end of school year, like these things just happen. I understand that. But what we can do is develop a baseline of our schedule so that we can go through the season a little easier. Doesn't mean that there aren't going to be busy days or weeks here and there. It just means you can prepare for them. You can anticipate when things might ramp up and just be ready for them. You also want to make sure your schedule really reflects your priorities and understand that you don't have to do everything just because it's on someone else's calendar. I'll say that again. You just don't have to do everything just because it's on someone else's calendar. So just like we had a little bit of a formula in the decluttering episode about our physical stuff, we're going to use a little bit of that same formula for our schedule and our calendar. So if you remember, we did keep, throw away, and give away. So when it comes to our schedule, we want to really optimize it. We're going to assess what we really want to keep on there. Those are the things that are aligned with our priorities. What are things we can give away or delegate to others? This is a big one. And then what is there that we can throw away or we just fully remove? Okay, so keep that in mind. Keep, delegate, remove. So here's where I think is a good place to start transforming your schedule. It's going to be a little bit of kind of like a practical element of what you can do. And I would suggest doing this like not on your main calendar just yet. Do it on like a piece of paper or an erasable calendar, because some things might change as you go through this. It's just a little bit of a practical thing that you can do. So what you're going to do is, number one, you're going to start with your overall calendar for the month, or even if you wanted to look ahead the next few months. So for me, I kind of look ahead in terms or quarters, that sort of thing. So like right now, I know that we have about 3.5 months left. So I'm already looking ahead to November, December, and what's taking place so I can get an idea of what things are happening. So what you want to do is either for the month or the next few months, especially because we're going to the end of the year, is you want to look at your calendar and see where important dates are coming up. This could be maybe a wedding, a birthday party, family Christmas, those types of things. It's big ticket items, it's like a one-off event. Put those down that you definitely know that you're going to be engaging in. See where they land in the month or in the next few months. You could even, maybe color code this stuff. I'm not really that detailed, but you might be a highlighter queen and that's your thing. You might want to, kind of put like this, kids are in green, families in red, work is in blue, that sort of thing. Whatever floats your boat. I'm not that detailed. I just kind of like jot it all down. So that's what you want to do. You want to do your big things. What are the big things in the calendar coming up? And then number 2, you're going to go through and see the things that happen weekly. What are things that take place every week on the same day, or maybe every 2 weeks on the same day? And this could either be something that's for the month or it continues for the month. So maybe your kids have started a sport and now you'll be out a certain day of the week that you weren't out before. So you're going to put those things on the calendar, those things that are reoccurring for the next month or even the next few months, okay? And then you're going to place the miscellaneous stuff, which sounds funny, but I know that there's always just things in between, like the major things and the weekly things where it's just like miscellaneous things that you put on. So in that, you might find some things that are just ad hoc sort of stuff. Because when it comes to overhauling your schedule, you will start to find and see where you have overcommitted, or even where you may have a tendency to overcommit because that's what you've done in the past during this same time. So for me, knowing this helps me to prepare when I say no to things and when I say yes to things. So looking at my schedule like this just really gives me an overall feel of, hey, is this, coming up in 3 weeks, for the next 2 weeks, that's going to be crazy busy. So some things I might just have to say no to. Or, coming up after 2 weeks of crazy busy, then there's just like a couple of weeks where nothing's on. So if something comes up, I'm going to be able to say yes to that if I want to. So it just kind of gives you an overall view of what you will be able to say yes to, what you'll be able to say no to, how you go about doing that. Now, just a little tip. It's okay to say no to things. And we're going to go into that a little bit later, but just to prepare yourself, it is okay to say no to stuff. So you do need to obviously tread carefully, because you also want to make sure you're doing it out of the right heart. You're not just saying no for the sake of saying no. But yeah, you want to be able to know that it is okay to say no. Okay, so after you've mapped out, the big ticket things, the one-off events that are really coming up, you've done sort of like your weekly schedule, bi-weekly schedule, put in your miscellaneous stuff. Now what you're going to do is the same process of kind of decluttering. You're going to go through your schedule, all right? You're going to go through, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find out what your intentions or priorities for the month or the months to come. Okay. So what are your priorities, your intentions, or your family's priorities, or your family's intentions, not someone else's, yours. Okay. So the same thing about decluttering. What is the intention for the room? What are you going to be doing in that room? Now, some rooms are, like we said, it's a bathroom. You know what you're going to do in there, okay? But then some, it's like, oh, this is a living room. This is what we want to be doing. Or this is the kitchen. This is what, we're going to be playing games. We're going to be cooking. We're going to be doing all this stuff. So what are the intentions and the priorities you want for the next month or the next couple of months? Okay. So maybe it's like, I'll give you an example. So maybe it's a sports season for your family and the kids. And that's your priority because this is the only time of year you actually do this. Or maybe you don't have any sports and you want to really focus on family time. So either one. Maybe it's like, it's sports season. We're going to go hard in this. This is something we all do. I have a friend who her kids are involved in baseball and softball, and they just go hard during this time. And then other times they're not doing that because it's not that season. So what are the intentions, the priorities, the season for what you are going through? Remember, yours, not anyone else's. You need to know what your priorities are. And I'm going to add this. Just because something was a certain way last year at the same time doesn't mean that it has to be the same this year. This is why you're reevaluating. So, so just because something, you did this the same last year or even the last couple of years, but you're not feeling it this year, you're not feeling that this is a priority or a real intention, it's okay. All right. So the next thing you want to do after you set your priorities and you set your intentions, and it's okay if these change a little down the line, what you want to do is decide what you need to keep or what you want to keep. It's important to have this set in your mind? Like what is it that you really want to keep? Like if it's sports season for your family, that's just a thing that you guys love to do. You don't care if you're out, 2 to 3 nights a week plus Saturdays. Like it's just something that you love to do. That's family time for you. That's what you really want to do. Then you know that you're going to keep that. But if it's something where you're like, I'm not really sure, I'm feeling a bit hesitant about that, that's where you need to kind of evaluate things. So for instance, maybe there's, you have a catch up with a friend or a play date with a friend that you've been having the last couple of months. But this next season is becoming really busy and you just can't see yourself doing that on that same day or even during the week because of other commitments. It's okay to be like, I don't know if we'll be able to keep that right now. Doesn't mean it's for the whole time or, for the rest of the year or even into next year. It just means for this time, I might have to say no to that. So that's not something I'm going to keep. Maybe you're involved in like a Christmas program. And for the next few months, you know that you're going to need to be out for practices. And that's your priority of what you want to do. So you want to be involved with this. You've committed to it. That's what you want to do. So I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep this on the schedule. Okay. This also goes for like kids' activities. I know that kids love to be involved in so much, but it doesn't mean that they have to be. If your kids are involved in every sport under the sun, plus this and that, and it makes that your family is out every night and you have no family time, then you may need to rethink what you're actually going to keep. All right. Tip: kids need more downtime than adults, so it's okay for them not to be involved in everything. So that's just a little tip, something that I just love sharing with people because these days it's crazy how much kids can be involved in stuff but how much they don't actually have to be and how much downtime and free play at home is really good. So decide what you want to keep, what you're going to keep. And remember, this can always be adjusted and you can go back and review it again. Okay. So what you definitely want to keep. All right. Next is there something that you are able to delegate or give to someone else? So this could be maybe you want to give more responsibilities to your kids, okay? And yes, give more responsibilities to your kids, especially when it comes to things around the house. What is something you can delegate? Let's say it's something at work and you know that you can delegate to your team or coworkers, especially if it's more along the lines of the work they do. What can you delegate to free up more of your time? Even if it's more time, not necessarily to do something else, but to just have more free space. Okay. So you want to find those things that you can delegate. This is probably one of the hardest things to do, especially if you're a control freak or you haven't done this before. But I encourage you to give it a go. What are some things you can delegate? Have you always been the mom that brought the snacks to every game? Do you really need to do that? Do you really need to be at every game? Those types of things. Can you delegate that responsibility to someone else? Maybe someone who really loves to do it. Just be creative when it comes to this. There's always a way. If you couldn't do it, let's just say, bad case scenario, you got hit by a car and you're in the hospital for, a few weeks. Could someone pick it up and just take it? Most likely they could. And they could probably, even if you got better, continue doing it and you never have to do it again. So think about it. What are some things that you could delegate, even if you are involved in an activity? All right. So then lastly, what you want to do is see if there's anything on the calendar that you can fully remove, like just straight off the bat, fully remove. Now, I'll give you an example. Maybe there's an activity that you have attended every year for the last 5 years or something. But now it's not really something that you want to do anymore. So you just need to fully remove yourself. Kindly decline it. Of course, be hospitable about it and have the right heart. Don't make it a big deal. I know this is always easier said than done, but I would suggest giving it a go. What are some things that you actually can remove to free up space, even if it's a lot of free space? If you're just finding that you're really just overwhelmed and you're like, I don't feel like we have any free space, even myself or a family or my husband and I or something like that. if there's things that you can remove to be able to create that space, then you need to look and see, is this really lining up with our priorities? Is this really lining up with our intentions? If it's not, and it can be removed, that's what you want to do. Another example of this, a really good one, especially when it comes to kids' activities, maybe they're involved in a sport that you don't really have time to take them to and be there with them. So what this means is you might need to sit down with your kid and just really talk it through with them and just say, look, mom and dad are really busy and we're not able to just take you and to this activity. Maybe you could say, look, let's contact another parent and if they're able to take you to and from this activity, then we'll give it a go. But if they aren't available, then we're going to have to say no to it for now. I think parents need to be a little bit more forward in this and just really honest with the kids. My parents were the same way. They just said, hey, we were involved in a couple things, even for a couple of years. And then it came to the next year. My parents just said, we just don't have enough time to be able to take this other night out, plus the weekends. And so we just said, okay, no worries. That's fine. Like they spoke to us about it. And that's what we did. And yeah, maybe I don't remember being really gutted because I was younger, but maybe they're a little bit gutted at first, but just if you explain to them and talk to your kids, then it's okay. So I think if you can try to work out a plan where something like this, you're able to work it out with another person to be able to take them to or from. They're already, this person's already taken their kid and they can take yours as well, then do that. But if it's just not feasible or it's just something that you just can't do and it's another thing on the schedule that you just don't have time for, then you might need to sit down with your kids and talk it through. So from there, you have done the 3 steps. You have set your intentions. You found out what you need to keep, what you need to delegate, and what you need to remove. Now, you might actually go through this sort of cycle a few times, just like in decluttering, especially if you haven't done it before. But also I find I do this too. I will first look at the, calendar and I'll set everything's in motion. And then every month I'll kind of go through and I'll be like, yeah, look, that's really not going to work. Like I thought I could do all that, but I can't. So we're going to have to, reshift some things, remove some things, delegate some things, that sort of thing. So the whole thing of keep, delegate, remove is kind of like a cycle you can just keep going through with each of your activities and things that you do. So, you might just find like in a couple of weeks, you set everything out and then you kind of go to do it and you're like, yeah, I don't really need to do that, or I don't actually really have time to do that. So you can just keep doing this process over and over to where you get your schedule to where it needs to be. And again, these things are going to change from season to season and what you're doing. Again, this is, the end of the year. It's usually busier, holidays. These are things you do want to be involved in. So you need to make time for them. At the beginning of the year, there may not be anything on. And so you can be involved in a lot of activities, or you don't have to be in a lot of activities. So it's just assessing where you are at the time. The more you do this process, the better you become at it. Like when I look ahead now, I just know, here's where was my pocket of busyness. And then I make sure through that in my schedule, there are downtimes, so to speak. So if there's a lot of busyness or I'm doing a lot of activity, maybe it's like a full weekend or even a full week and into 2 weeks, I make sure like the week after or the week before, I just have a little bit more downtime to be able to like recoup or gear up to do what I need to do. Or maybe it's just a full month of just going hard and knowing that at the end, or even in the beginning, just preparing for it. So just remember that. Keep, delegate, and remove. You can do this thing in your schedule and it just helps to better things, especially when you get into busy seasons. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode about transforming your schedule as part of our Get It Together at Home series. I hope you've actually been enjoying the series. I'd love to hear from you. So again, DM me on Instagram, leave it a comment in the YouTube video. I would just love to see what you're doing, where you've taken your schedule, how you've transformed it, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you're notified when new episodes go up. And I will chat to you next week.